Hello, everybody. This is Ted Goff here with Michigan Online CNC. Today is September 11th, 2018. And tonight we got a couple of guest speakers. We've got Adrian Jewell from, is it Warren, Pennsylvania?
Yes.
And we've got Jim Sinacola from Midland, Michigan. And first up, we're going to try to break this up into 2 half-hour sessions, and we'll try to keep it within the hour period for everybody. And we're going to let Adrian begin. And I'd like to just have Adrian start by introducing yourself there, Adrian. Tell us a little bit about you and what you do for a living. And then we'll go ahead and we'll start out with your presentation. And we appreciate you joining us tonight.
That's no problem. Thanks for having me, Ted. My name's Adrian Jewell. I'm a electrician by trade. I've been doing that for, I don't know, 35 years now. And I work for a company called Worley Drinkworks. And I'm their facilities electrician. I do CNCing on the side, and I'm breaking into doing the modeling using ZBrush and a few other 3D programs. So I used to use Aspire. I haven't used it in a while. Ted asked me to do this, so I will do it in Aspire for you. I downloaded the trial version, and we're going to run on that tonight.
So I'm going to pass the presentation roll over to you, and we should be seeing your screen. Now, if your screens aren't large, you guys can go ahead and enlarge the screen on your end to get a full screen. Okay, we can see your screen there. Adrian, go ahead.
Okay. All right. To save time, I made up some vectors last night to put on here instead of making them tonight.
Is your screen fully enlarged?
Yes, full screen.
All right.
All right. As you can see, we got lots of parallel lines, and these lines are separate, empty, they're open vectors. Nothing is closed except for the circles up here and, of course, the letters. Now, what I'm going to show you how to do is called a two-rail sweep. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to use two parallel, hopefully matching vectors, and you will highlight these vectors. By closing Shift, you will highlight both vectors. So what you will do next is you'll come into your modeling tab, and your second one over should be create a shape by sweeping between two rail vectors. When you click on that, you'll come up to a screen where you have to use a selection, and you have already selected your two vectors, so you will hit use selection. Then you will have...
Adrian, let me slow you down just a little bit. Is everybody seeing this in real time? Just give me a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because sometimes if we go, you might want to just slow it down just a little bit.
Okay. All right. Now, when you're using a two-rail sweep, you're going to need your vector that is going to create the shape you want. Either a square. Right here, I have a 12-sided object and a 8-sided object, which I cut in half to make a four-sided, pretty much a four-sided object. And you have your circle. So you can use any type of open vector like this as long as you have a good shape to it. So what you'll do is you'll hit Shift and you will choose that vector that you want. And then when your apply button will light up saying that you can apply it. So when you apply it and then you go back to 3D view, you now have a shape like the one that you highlighted between those two vectors. And you can do that with pretty much any shape. To give you different looks is what you need.
So
now this
essentially you're cutting a section then.
Yes. You're putting the geometry between two vectors. It's not going any farther than the bottom of the vectors, and it's not going any further than the top of the vectors. It'll stop where you want it to. That's a good way to be able to control where your geometry is going. So then you can go back and you can pick. Now I made this set here to match and go over top. So we'll use the same. You highlight two vectors. You hit Use Selection. You'll find the vector you want to use, and then apply again. And you go back, and this will create another model on top of the one you have. Now, some models, the way they are set up, you will see if you move, they will raise either on top of each other or below each other, depending on how you have them set. If you want your bottom model to go into your above model seamlessly, then you will have to choose the on top version, so that it will sit on top of your model. That way it blends in nicely and gives you a nice clean look. Then we'll come up here and we will do this one and this one. Oh, come on. Having problems.
Do you have to choose your section first and then pick your vectors, or no?
Usually, I always choose the vectors. Why are they? It's very strange. I am holding my head. It keeps jumping back and forth, even with the shift key. Let me close it out and try it again. I got nothing else highlighted. Oh, let's try this again. There we go. So we hit Use Selection, and we're going to do the cylinder where we keep the gas. We're going to do that as our shape. We apply it. Now you can see that raised up that bottom model, the center model. That other one just raised it up so it's sitting on top of that model. So what you would have to do is set this up as on top as well. So now it sits right up inside. Now you can manipulate these to give you a better look. You can scale by height, or you can go in and scale each one of them independently. As long as they pop up in red, then you can adjust them by using the little wrench thing here. You can change the height of the height. What it is, the height is where the model begins and where the model ends. Now your base height is a layer that's underneath that model that's raising that height up. So if you went 0.5 in shape height and you have 0.5 in base height, you would actually be 1 inch high. But your model is still only ½ inch high. You're just raising the base on it. So we can lower that, which would actually lower your curve as well, or we can bring that back up and keep the curve we had, but lower the base, which will lower it down inside further. And you will keep that way. You can keep yourself where it looks like it's actually sitting on a ledge, actually sitting in the holder that it's supposed to be. Then we come back and we can build another one. Now you can see as well, this is sitting on top of this model. So to get it to where it's sitting even, again, you will have to set it to where it's on top. And now you're sitting on top of that model, and it's going seamlessly into the bottom of the other model. Hold on 1 second. I think Greg is measuring. Nope, that wasn't Greg. Okay. Now,
Greg is trying to log in. He's having problems logging in, but he's trying to log in.
Okay, I saw that. They asked me on here if I wanted to let him, and I pushed allow. So.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so we get up here to the top piece. Now this is a interesting way of doing it. We wanted to make that dome style gas pump. So what we would do is we'd start with, of course, we got to take these and put them back together again. I had them apart because I was going to put some letters in, so I was using the vector to round the letters off, but I decided not to go that route. So
it looks like Greg's in. He can see and hear now. Good.
all right, good. Hey, Greg, what's up, man? All right. So this, we're going to do your basic models. Now, you got your round and your angular and your flat profile. We're going to use a round for this. I usually set my height by after I look at the models done. I'll go into 3D view, which you can still do and still have all your adjustments that you can make. And you can look and say, oh, that might be about right. So we'll leave that as is. Now, usually those signs, the round piece looks like it's going into the outer border. So to do that, we need to pull up. Now, what I did is I offset the outer border inside the border of the other model, which in turn, if you set them right, that will make the other model disappear into the outer border, making it look like what we're wanting to look like. So we do this, and then we would hit this one here. We take this up to 90 because we want that rounded out all the way out. So we go back. It's sat on it, so it's pushing this model up. So what we do is we apply. Close. And now we got to lower their model. Come on, lower. All right. Let's go this way.
If you're not talking, turn your microphone to mute.
Let's take that underneath. This is where I get confused sometimes. It's trying to line these up to where the one is sitting over the other but does not push it up like this one is doing. So what we can do, so once you take that one back out, this one will lower back down. So what we need to do is make this one over.
Which color is the active color, red or
green? Red is always the active color.
Okay,
and now when it goes when it goes green, that means it's sitting below another model, I believe, and it's what's being shown through. If it's underneath the other model, it won't be showing through. So right now, that's weird. Let's take this back here. I bring this back under here. And take this one, put it above. It's still pushing out. That is odd. Let's try something else here. This one's here. Let's raise it up and out. I don't know why it's pushing it out. That is very strange. It should not be pushing it out. Alright, we'll get her down there. That's weird. And it's funny thing is it worked this afternoon. That's very strange. Let's try this. What we got here? This one. And we take. Let's get rid of. Delete that one. All right, we're going to go back to the beginning here.
No worries here, because I think it helps us to go back sometimes and
Okay.
have these kind of errors. That's what we run across. It's kind of nice to try to figure them out.
All right, let's raise that up a little bit. All right, let's start a new component.
Don't you have to unclick the thing that you had clicked? I think you have 3 things clicked now.
What I did is I started a new component.
But the outer rim of the bubble was still selected. So
Okay, the outer rim, well, see, I had made that bubble. It's still highlighted. I have this one and this one. The one that made the actual bubble is this one, which isn't highlighted.
Okay.
So she did go back out. So let's see. Let's get that ring to raise up now. It's set in, but we don't want it set in that far. So we'll raise this one up as well. Now we got to put that one on top, which will take that ring away. Let me put it above. You always need, whenever you want something to sit on above something, you not only have to check the above marker, you also have to make sure that that component is above in the list, the levels, that is above that other component as well. Oh. Now we can do some lettering. There's 2 ways of doing the lettering. We can either make the lettering go with the bubble, which we're going to, really? And we're going to keep this one flat. Now, if you do it where it's set here, it is going to lay it on top of it, so it will go with the curve of the dome. Where'd you go? Let's get you up there. There you are. There you go. Now, does anybody see that little lip there that's sticking out?
Yep.
That means that this part is sitting on this. It's not sitting below it. So what we have to do is either we can make this component, we can try making this component to where it sits on top, which way it could disappear. So you wind up with something
I
that
find
looks...
it would probably be a little bit more helpful, to me anyway, I don't know about the other guys, if we rename those components somehow to keep organized.
Mm-hmm.
I always have a hard time figuring out which one is which component.
Well, usually if you can click on your component and it'll highlight it red. So I pretty much can tell which component I'm working on.
Okay.
Instead of going through and renaming them all, because I'm constantly getting rid of components, I'm moving components, I'm combining components.
And you can never figure out what to name them.
Right, yeah, that too. And sometimes you have to get certain effects, you have to actually take a couple of components and what they call baking them together so that they're one component again, so that you can get it to react with another component that's sitting with it, that they could do the proper thing.
But
Sometimes
if you
have
change it back. Once it's done, right?
baking. No, you can go back. You can, yeah. We can go ahead and bake. Let's see, we'll bake this and that. So this whole head here will be baked. And let's come over here. It looks like that some bread with some smoke coming off of it. Now it bakes it and leaves one component now for 6. So we can, let's see. You're not gonna let me do it. We move it, it moves as one component.
Okay.
Now we can go back and just hit Control Z once to get it back where it was, and then Control Z again, and all 3 components are now back and separate.
Okay.
Control Z will take you backwards pretty much all the time.
For some reason, I was under the impression that baking was final.
If you bake and save, then it's final.
Okay.
Yes, you can't, once you save it, you can't go back.
Okay.
Like if you were to save the file and come back and do it tomorrow, that's baking is done. You can't undo it. But as long as you have as long as you're open, you can have the baking.
Okay.
Or you can undo the baking. Let me say. So and then I used a couple other. I don't want to work. Huh. Those little I got all your pictures on my right hand side. When I go over to the document to try and move it, it just grabs all the pictures.
Grab the pictures. Grab all. You mean the bubbles?
Yeah.
Grab them.
I moved them up
to the other side of your screen. You
Yeah,
can
I got
move those bubbles, or you can pull them down to the bottom of your screen.
Okay. All right. Now what I did. Now, if you looked at some of those old ones, I took a picture and I was working off it to do this when I made these vectors. They have these little rods that go up between the two. So I decided I would show you we can create those as well by using the same 2-rail sweep. Just select the vector, we check the shape we want to use, and we apply it. And then when you go back to 3D view, you see you will have which seems to be sitting on top of it. So again, you have to go over here and you have to make it sit on top. Now you'll have to go back and lower it. So we get the component. And you can add as many as you want, and you can get it down lower. Now, see, I don't know if you guys cut a lot of models. The problem I have with models is the higher you go, of course, the longer your bits needs to be. And now you have a straight side like this. Those tapered bits that everybody raves about, they have their purpose. But to get these flat sides, to get the 90 degree, you're not going to get it with a taper. So what I always try and do is I know the length of my the cutting length of my smallest ball nose. And I try and make my heights to accommodate that so that my ball nose can always run right up to it, then straight up, and then keep going and do the design and keep a nice straight 90 degree angle. If you use a taper, you're not only going to get it, it's not going to be a flat 90 as well, it's also going to have little marks in it. And those are horrible to try and get out unless you use another tooling path, and I haven't had much luck with that. I usually get it to the point where it's good and I say, okay, I'm not going to mess with it anymore. So, but anything I can make clearer for you guys?
No, that was pretty good. You guys got any questions?
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's my first time trying to explain something like this. Is quite new for me.
Well, that's great. You know, I think it's really good. Plus, you know, I'm recording it, so if anybody wants a link to this recording, just send me a private email, and I'll send you the link to the recording, and then you'll be able to play it back. The file will be too big for me to email it, but I make a link, and then you'll have the link, and then you can just watch it anytime you want and replay it and go over it. And I think it's a good use of the two-rail sweep, and I think it's a good use of trying to set the base height and the shape height within a component.
I'd like to ask how you would paint or finish it once it was carved.
I would do this one. I would probably do this one in a wood that I would not paint or stain. I would probably do this one something like cherry inside of within another design, or if I was doing it by itself, I don't think I would try and paint it. Not made out of wood. I'm not a big fan of painting wood anyway.
It's hard to do where you have sharp edges. That's why I asked.
Right. Yeah, it is. I have a really hard time with painting. I really don't do well.
Was it Greg that? Greg, can you turn on your microphone? I think it already is on. Can we hear you? We're not hearing Greg. I was maybe in the chat box, Greg. Did you ever carve this model or that globe? And did you paint it? I know you made a rendering of it. I showed a picture of it. Let's see if he pops something up there in the chat box. He's sending me a private. He said he left it natural. He left it natural.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I work a lot with walnut, cherry, maple, and I can't bring myself to paint them. I make MDF signs just so I have something to paint. I really just will not paint wood. Don't believe in it, I guess.
Okay, well, great. We appreciate you sharing this information with us. I think it was very good.
Hey, Greg, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's a little bit less intimidating for me now after seeing. It's going to take some time and a learning curve, but I think that this is something that in the future that I'm going to try. Thank you for your demonstration. I appreciate it.
It's not a problem. Anytime.
Another question.
Mm-hmm.
You said that you moved away from Aspire. What are you using instead of Aspire?
To do all my G codes, I use ArtCam.
I thought ArtCam was defunct.
It is. I just have a copy that I paid for a while back, and it still works.
Okay.
ArtCam was not always a subscription based, so I don't think it started till like 2017 making the subscription. Then they closed it out completely in 2018. But I have a 2000, I think mine's 15 version that I've had for years, and I just left it. I still use it today.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to ask Greg to email me the photo. He just texted me the photo. If he can email it to me, I can put it up on the screen of the finished globe.
That'd be good. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so we'll see if he emails it to me at tgauthier. It's TGAUTHIER@comcast.net. If he can do that, I'll put it up. In the meantime, any other questions here for Adrian? Thanks, Adrian. Jim Sinacola, are you on the line? Did Jim drop off by chance?
No, I'm here.
Okay. Let me go ahead and turn the presentation over to you, and then I would like you to go ahead and introduce yourself, and then start with your presentation. So let me go ahead and pass the presenter role over to you, and then, okay, we're seeing your screen now. If your screen isn't fully enlarged, go ahead and hit the enlarge button on your PC and do that.
Okay. Hey, while we're talking, can you guys see this?
Well, yes, we can see it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was reading, this goes back to somebody asked a question about what you do for 3D.
Oh, okay, hold on. Jim, before you get started, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you. What do you do for work? You retired? Just let hear a little bit about you, and then we'll get started.
Okay, I worked for the Dow Chemical Company here in Midland, Michigan for over 30 years. I retired back in 2006. I have been, I built my own CNC machine from Dave Gatton plans. It's a plywood machine, and I also did the electronics. I was an instrument engineer at Dow, so I did all my own electronics and that. And I've been CNCing now a year and a couple of months. So I started out with the V-Car Pro 9, and I just recently, a couple months ago, upgraded to Aspire. And then I started at Aspire 8, and of course, then it went to 9, and now it's 9.507, I think. So that's where I'm at with the Aspire products. But one of the things I'm interested in is doing some 3D models, and I've watched a bazillion of the Vectric files, but there's also this program here. It's called Blender, and I got this Blender for Dummies. It makes 3D models. You can make 3D models from it in their STL files, and it's a free program, but it also does movies and that kind of stuff too. So you have to look at the 3D part. The nice part is it's free. The bad part is the learning curve is steep. So, you know, you get trade-offs on stuff, right? You pay a lot of money and they're easy to use. I think Vectric is very easy to use, and the Blender is a little bit more difficult to learn. So you have trade-offs. One of the things that I've run across with a lot of people here is that they don't, I worked in a computer group too, so what I do is I always create a folder with only one project in it, and I put all the project stuff in there, the job sheets, the design files, and everything. So, and I give it a name that I can remember. A lot of people use cryptic names, and then they can't never find anything. So that's just one suggestion too, is that you know, you kind of like keep things all together, but hey, that's all up to you. And what I'm going to talk about today is the job sheets. The job sheets.
Hey, Jim?
Yeah.
Let me interrupt you just for a minute to finish up Adrian's deal. Here's the picture of the finished gas globe.
Can't see it.
So
you got to take control, Ted.
So, oops, okay, you're right. I got to take control. Sorry.
You gotta get control of your group there, Ted.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. There's the picture. How's that?
Oh, shit. That did come out pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah. So it turned out great.
Very good, Greg. Very good.
So that was from Greg Engelman, who carved that and made it up. He's in the group listening and watching. He's having problems getting his microphone working. But anyways, that's his project, and yeah, it turned out great. And there was a guy on Facebook, I don't know if it was Greg, but somebody sent me a message that's like just down the street from him. So that was kind of interesting. Okay, back to you there, Jim. I'm going to give it back to you, and you got her.
Okay. Now let me drag this over here. Okay. I'm a big fan of these job sheets. I'm old enough now to the point that I can't remember everything. So when I first started out, I made some pretty bad mistakes by not remembering, you know, hey, was I at the lower left corner or was in the center or whatever. So I started doing these job sheets. It's a pretty cool little tool that comes with Vectric. It has some, this top part here is just the vectors of the...
Jim, how do you get there?
I'm going to show you that.
Okay.
I'm going to show you that. But I'm just showing you the basic layout. This thing is fully customizable. You can see that I put my workshop name up here. If you have a small picture, you can put a picture up here if you have a logo, and it puts the name up here. You see a layout here. You can add these job notes to it. There's the material setup. So basically, you can take the sheet down to your shop. It's just, you know, hey, here's a layout like if you're doing cabinets, whatever you're doing, you know. But, you know, this tells you exactly what to do. And this is all.
Stay close to the mic there, Jim. We hear you really good when you're close to the mic.
Okay, so you can customize this. You can take pieces out that you don't like or you don't want or you don't need. And then I usually print it out double-sided, and this is all I take down to my shop. And then I have my tool list, I have the order, and everything like that. So with that said, I'm going to go over here and I'll show you how you get to it. Okay, here's my Aspire file, and you said I can drive these. I can take these guys over here. Okay, good. Got them right out. This is a sign I'm making for a niece who's getting married. So what you can do here is the job sheet is on the toolpath layout, and it's right here. So when you click on that, it will create a job sheet once you have all your tool profiles done. And what it does is you add your order of tools, and that's how it's going to be shown in the job sheet. So this will be this one will be number 1, and this will be the last one. Okay, and it lays it all out accordingly. So to get to the job sheet, that's how you start a job sheet. To customize the job sheet, and to add notes, they have a gadget, and on mine it was already there. I didn't have to download the gadget, but here you have the setup sheet editor, and that's right here. And when you click on that, here's the job setup sheet editor. You can change the logo by going to this box here. And this is for the picture, so that would be like the Vectric. So, and they tell you the picture has to be this certain size. You can change the title from a job control sheet to whatever you would like here. You can also change the colors. You can click on this one and select the color. Or if you're smart and you know the hex numbers for colors, you can type that in there. And then here's the 5 components of the job sheet. Here's the job layout vector that was right at the top. Then you have job notes, your material setup, whether it's on the top, your reference off the top, or whatever that would be, this section over here. The toolpath summaries, that's just a summary of how long each toolpath will run based off there. That's this right here. And then the individual toolpaths right here. So if you don't want any of these things, let's say if you didn't want the vectors, you would just unclick this, and that won't show up. That would be this this part up here. If you want job notes, you need to have that one picked. And if you don't need tool past summary, you could undo that. Then this summary sheet over here will not show up. So you can customize this to whatever you want. And you don't have to worry if you muck it up so bad that you can't remember what you did. You can just click the restore and it'll put it back to the Vectric defaults for you. So that's how you do that. So that's done over on the gadgets. So when you go to do a layout like this, you can see here's the job notes that I have for this job right here. And I've also done some coding in here because this layout here is called an HTML file, which is what you see when you go into web pages. Okay, this is a web page. Well, when you go into the notes page to add your notes, it's a text editor. So you can use HTML code to make this look nicer. Okay. Like I say, you can take any of these components out or add them in. So I'll look at a one right here, this spoil board. You can also enter in notes on your tool database. So if you have some specific tools with certain parameters that you need to take, you can actually put that on the tool itself, and that information will show up. And for instance, I have an inch and a half surfacing bit, and I use it only for spoil board surfacing. I put the manufacturer, the model, and the important thing for me was that you can't run it over 18,000 RPM. So that was another thing. So this is just one tool path for surfacing. Now on this one right here, here's where I put in some job notes here, and I don't have anything on the tool bit, so just, you know, V-bits and end mills. So this is nothing really special, but, you know, maybe your drag knife or something, if you have something like that, or a surfacing bit, anything that has a lot of detail that you want to make sure that you remember. Now, you could also put in your job notes things like if you're using different kinds of wood and you're adjusting the feeds and speeds, you could also put in here, like I put in here, the script that I use for the layout, because I've had a couple of people ask us, so how can I remember that? But sometimes you can open up the file and figure it out. I just put some general information in there. So that's pretty straightforward.
I like the idea where you could, you know, write in there that, hey, it was French script or Lucida. Right. Right. You can't ever remember that. If 6 months down the road, you say, what script was that?
Right. That was one of my, that was what Charlie Ireland says, how can I get some notes? I make this once, 2 times a year, and he can't remember everything. So he says, how do I do that? And I use this. I use this for every job that I do. So I take down a couple sheets of paper, and I'm all set to go.
What do you do if you have to change something on the fly? You go back up.
Then you just write it down, and later you go and add it back into your notes. You can still do stuff on the fly. This does not prevent you, but if you carved this and you got it where you wanted it, but then you change it something else, like, you know, if you use cherry or oak or whatever, you probably use different speeds and feeds or plywood or MDF. So,
well, I mean, when if you guys go, say you wanted to cut that Casey and Renee, that font, and you found that when you cut it, it wasn't deep enough, do you run back up and make a new toolpath, or do you adjust your machine to run the same toolpath but deeper?
Yes. So your second one, I just run it a little bit deeper.
Okay.
I jog it down. But then I make a note on this piece of paper what I did, and then when I get time, I'll go back and make a new job sheet that's more up to date.
Okay.
Or you could print this job sheet out, right, and just pencil notes on it.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
The paper in front of you, you know, that you can refer to down the road.
I mean, for instance, you might start out at 100 inches a minute or something. Well, if I started out 100 inches a minute and I'm cutting too deep or whatever, and I see some chatter, I'm using Mach 3, so I just reduce the speed, and then when I get to where it's not chattering because I forgot I'm using a different wood or whatever, then I would mark down that, hey, I'm not at 100 anymore, I'm down to 60. So I write 60 on this paper right here, and then I'd go make some new job notes for that particular wood. So, I mean, it's all what you want to do, you know. It doesn't limit you, it just gives you the starting guideline for your job, right? And you may have to go and do it.
Say, Jim.
Yes, sir.
At the Makerspace, I introduce a lot of people to CNC. This would be very helpful for the newbies to read through everything. And then when they load the program and they start looking at all of it, these are notes that would help them. This is going to be very helpful. I've never hit that button before.
Yeah, I think where this will really help you out there in the makerspace, Don, is that you can take a small project that you want one of the new guys on. I don't know if everybody in the group is familiar with the Kalamazoo Makerspace, but they've got a CNC machine there, and they put them through a training process, and then they kind of cut them loose to use the machine with guidance, and then after a while they get to use it on their own. But what I can see this being very helpful for you is that you could make a project, make a complete job sheet for it, hand it to a new guy and say, okay, here's your job sheet, go make that part.
Well, for instance, when I first started, like I said, sometimes I would forget, well, I always went off the top of the material. That's not a problem, but I don't always go off the center. For instance, if you're doing a 3D bowl cutout, you're cutting out the center usually, and so you can't use that as it's not very conducive to me. But if you look at your clearance, you can look real quick. You got the size of your material here, and then you have where your datum is at the top or the bottom.
Thursday, 10 o'clock. Read it all.
Oh, who's ever got their mic on, turn it off, because we can hear you.
And then it also has your setup, your material setup, you know, what your Z height is, your safe Z clearance height, you know, is it 2/10 of an inch or whatever, you know, your starting position. So it starts out at X, O, Y, O at Z at 2/10. So this works out pretty good for me.
That would have saved me a sheet of plexi the other day because I thought I was at XY center and I was at left corner.
I've done that too. I went the other way.
We've all
I
done
wanted to be
that.
on the left corner and I was on the center. It does funky stuff. So,
Yeah, I think it's great because there's a lot of times where I'll set my Z at the top of the spoil board, or I'll set it at the top of the material, top of the project. You know.
okay, so
I've gotten to the point where a lot of times I'll use the top of the spoil board because then I know it's going to cut all the way through and not cut into my spoil board, but it's going to, you know, because plywood's different thicknesses.
okay, let me quick and show you how you get to the job notes. Okay. Let me go into the tool database. You can open up your tool database by going over the tool path, and it's right here. So this opens up your tool database. Now I only have really one specialized tool right now that I'm using, and it's this one right here. And you can see right here, when you use HTML, you have to use text modifiers, and this one right here, you can see right here, there's a less than sign, then OL, that stands for ordered list. And then each one of these components here with this LI and then the /LI at the end is one line, and it's putting a 1, 2, 3, 4, if you remember that list that I showed you earlier. And then this is probably more beyond most people. They haven't done any programming, but if you've done any HTML programming, this is really basic stuff. If not, you get your paragraphs run all together. And you can read all that stuff, but I made it look a little bit cleaner.
But when you do the HTML, I'm familiar with it, but maybe others aren't. But when you do the HTML, it's making an ordered list, putting numbers, and it's doing the return paragraph, so it's putting each one of those lines in your job sheet all in one line instead of having a continuous paragraph. Correct.
So if you, I'll bring it back up in just a second to show you. It really goes, right here. So this just starts the ordered list. This one just is the line here, and it puts the 1, then the next one. Then this one will be 2, this one will be 3, and this is just the start and the end of each of those parts, and it just makes it looks nice. So that's one thing. So, but you might have some parameters, like for instance on your drag bits, on what your depth and pressure is for your drag bit. You know, that's kind of important information that kind of stays the same, and so that's how you do that. Now, to get to the actual job notes, I showed you how to customize here, and that's down here. This is how you customize it. Well, to get it where you actually put the notes in, you go over to the Edit tab here, and then you slide down here, and you click on Notes. So right here. And now here, I put in the notes. The period means, if you start this with a period, and I tell you what it is, every time you start your file, this note will come up. So when you start your file, this note comes up. It says, oh yeah, I got to remember this. Okay, all right, fine. And the reason I put this, because this box is called a text box. So if I just started typing all this stuff in, you get one all continuous line with periods in it, and you're just going to get a big paragraph all run together. By putting this period in there, it just simply means that this whole note box here will appear when you start your job. And then the BR is just a line break. It's like a carriage return to HTML. So you can put these in there, and when you see that, this will be how that one came out. Okay. So if I go back over to this one right here, you can see the function now. The period always stays there, but that's a function that's with Vectric if you want to see it. So this represents 2 BRs here. There's 2 BRs here, and I can read that a lot better, to me. So, but that's how you do it.
And then you want to show the 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I'll go over here and do that. That was on this right here. Oh, come on. Okay, that's this one right here. So when I did the ordered list, and I put the LI and the /LI at the, and if you don't get the syntax right, it won't work either. So you have to have the less than sign and the greater than sign, and in between there's a LI, and then the ending is /LI, and the same with the ordered list. It starts as OL and ends with /OL. But here's the ordered list right here. I don't know why I put spool, but I put the manufacturer of the bit, I put the model in there, and then I had the maximum RPM and just the shanks. So this is just specific tool bit stuff. Like I say, if you go back over to this gadget here, and you go to this sheet setup again, you can turn different parts off. But each time that you change stuff, you have to go create another job sheet because it's just a one-off deal, okay? It creates with whatever you have. So if you change stuff, like if you go and change your title, or if you turn off a couple of these blocks, like say you don't want the vectors to show on it, that what should be this part up here, and if you don't want the summary, you could turn that off. That's the number 4, because that's, you know, maybe as you become more seasoned, you only need the parts of what your job sheet is and then your individual tools. And it puts
Where do you find the colors? Where do you find the code for the colors?
You just click on this. I don't use the hex codes. Now you can go to on the web and get hex codes for colors if you need a specific color.
But actually, all you need to do is to click on the color, and it'll put the code in there for you.
Yeah, like if I go and change this to blue here, it'll put it in. See that? Now it's a blue. Now it's a red. And let's say if I wanted to restore this job sheet header back to whatever it was, I can hit this restore button, and it'll say, okay, it's restored it back to the thing. So if I go back here now and look at my my job sheet, it should be, oh, it didn't restore. Do you want to return to the default? So yeah, just say, should click here, restore complete. Oh, because I'm looking at this particular one that's assigned to the job. So that's why it's not changing. But if I started if I did another job sheet over here like this, and I did this, and I'll put this as number 5. And if I go and open up number 5, oh, sorry. I got to go open up the file here. And now you can see it reverted everything back to the standard. It says job setup sheet, has the name and that, and it doesn't have any of my things that I turned off. So this would be a standard that turns everything on. But I already had the job notes in here. It didn't take out my job notes because the job notes are still there. Any questions?
Excellent.
Great little pieces.
Well, this job has saved my butt many times after making many mistakes. So.
Oh, that's great. We really appreciate you explaining that to us. You know, I have been wanting to use this for quite a while, and I have kind of shied away from it, but I think I'll begin to start using it, and I start making these jobs, because I find that I'll make something and then I won't make it for 6 months, and then somebody will say, hey, can you make that little heart-shaped box for me again? And I'll say, let's see, what did I do when I did that? Then I have to go find it. So I guess I just have one last question for you, Jim. Once you're all done, do you save this in the same folder where you're doing your saving on your file?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So I save everything so that I have my last notes. So if you keep if you don't put a different number in there, when I created another job sheet, if I just go and create a job sheet, all it puts down is there. I typed this in here too. So I have this, but if I change them, here was the first one, here's the second one, here's the third one. So you have to make sure, because it only puts one name in there, it'll overwrite it. So you physically have to go and put a number or a letter or whatever you want. Okay?
Okay. Well,
and I save all this stuff together in that job sheet. So here's all the stuff, the job sheets and that. So I have my tools in there, my G codes in there, the job sheet, the Spire file, whatever. They're all in one folder.
okay. Well, anybody else have any questions for either Jim or Adrian before we log off? I just
No,
wanted.
thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to mention one other thing. If anybody that's in our group tonight or watches this as a recording, if there's a presentation that you would like to see, or you know of somebody that you think that you would like to have as a guest instructor, send me their name and I'll try to contact them and we'll try to get them on here. I know Vectric wants to get on here again. The other thing that I thought would be really nice, I just haven't come up with any ideas, is to try to get a supplier, somebody that uses something that we use in the CNC world. An example would be maybe I could get Westco, the people that sell the the sign board and the star board and the dual core color core material, and they could come on and explain, what that is, the cost, and how it's used, or something like that. So if you can think of, or maybe another CNC company or something that we could, I'd like to get different ideas versus just, doing these presentations. But that would be great if somebody could send me ideas, but more than the idea, send me a name of who you would like to do the presentation, and I'll get in contact with them.
Hey, Ted, you've got to be a mind reader in part, because I had a question for you, and it was going to be, do you take requests? Because what I would like to see is tiling, a demo on tiling with Vectric.
Oh, on tiling. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I would love to see that, because I want to cut some flags.
Okay.
And my machine,
your machine,
I need to be able to tile.
Okay. Sure, we can get somebody to do something on tiling. Next month, I'm hoping that this will work out, but I don't know if you guys are very familiar with Intarsia, but Kathy Wise is an internationally known artist, and she probably sells more Intarsia designs than anybody in the world. She's written half a dozen books on Intarsia. Intarsia is, they typically cut them out with a scroll saw, and then they take a hand sander or something and shape them to make them look like 3D. Well, what she's been trying to do is to convert some of the scroll saw files over to a CNC file. And I've been in contact with her, talking to her. I'm trying to get her for next month to be a guest instructor and show us, if not show us what she's doing or what she's planning on doing. So I think that may be interesting to several people.
Great idea.
Okay. So we're lucky she lives here in Michigan, out of all places. She sells her drawings all over the United States and the world, for that matter. Okay, so we'll wrap it up. Try to make it short as we can here because it's already gone over an hour. If anybody would like a link to this recording, all you have to do is send me a personal email at tgothier@comcast.net, and I will send you the link to this recording. So, any questions? That's it for now. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then if you'd like to carry on the conversation after the recording turned off, feel free to stay on.